In this episode of Only at West Ham, we go through possibly the most tragic Christmas night out of all time, one of the funniest collapsed transfers of all time, and one of the craziest deadline day sagas of all time. We also talk about one of the many disastrous striker signings we've made, and an English football record that we've broken, that didn't go to plan.
Only at West Ham.
Hello to Sheepheads.
We gotta cut it around the ground.
Hello, and finally welcome back to another episode of Only at West Ham, the most consistent series on ha 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 ha. Okay, who are we kidding here? But seriously, this series is back and making a return, and, in case you've missed it, so have the alternative commentary videos over on Twitter, so go over there and make sure you're followed with notifications on, to ensure you don't miss any videos. Now, before we start the video, I also want to quickly point you in the direction of my website, westhamclips.co.uk. The videos on here, and on Twitter, take a lot of time to put together, so, to make these videos viable, I've got merchandise available, and, not just any old merchandise, the greatest merchandise of all time, the highest quality t-shirts you've ever seen, the shiniest, most glossy, most indestructible mugs you've ever seen, the finest, most durable coasters that money can buy, cards that will make your loved ones truly realize how much you love them, DVDs that include all my previous alternative commentaries, Christmas sweaters if you really want to get into the festive period this January, calendars, so unlike our defense, you know what day of the week it is, so what the f are you waiting for? Head to westhamclips.co.uk now and buy every single item, hell, buy 5 of every single item. What are you waiting for? Do it right this very second. In all seriousness though, I've put off selling any sort of merchandise for years, due to wanting to do this properly and wanting to get it right, and I truly believe we have. The products are of genuine very good quality. There's also an option to make one-off donations, as well as signing up for a monthly subscription to support the channel, where you will be automatically entered into giveaways. There will be many more items released throughout the season, so keep an eye out for that. Or, alternatively, you can sign up to my mailing list, and you'll be notified about new releases right away. Right, that's enough disgusting self-promo for one video. Now, let us begin.
If tomorrow rains in London, it's my fault.
Now, as this video is going out on transfer deadline day, it only makes sense to go back through one of the most eventful deadline days in West Ham's history, and go through Diafra Sakho's shenanigans. But before doing that, let's add a bit of context. So, in the summer of 2016, Diafra Sakho handed in a transfer request, as he was pushing for a £15 million move to Tony Pulis's West Brom. However, he ended up failing his medical. He blamed this on West Ham, as he claims the club didn't rehabilitate him quickly enough. This annoyed him so much, that he went on strike, and didn't travel with West Ham to Austria for their pre-season games, and unfortunately for Diafra, injuries would limit him to just 4 appearances in the 2016-17 season. So, that takes us to the 2017 summer window, and Diafra is still pissed off with the club. So, on the eve of deadline day, he flies out to France for his medical with Rennes. Now, there's only one very slight issue here, which is that he booked the medical himself. Yet, nobody at the club knew about this medical. A fee hadn't been agreed between the clubs. He simply just wanted Peter Ademwingie to hold his beer. So, clearly annoyed and still trying to force a move, Diafra flew back to England on deadline day, as he, his agent, and the club were due to hold talks about his future. However, this meeting was put on hold, because of something much more important. What could be more important than a deal worth millions of pounds? I hear you ask. Well, Diafra Sakho and his agent had a horse running at Chelmsford Racecourse, which took priority. I promise you I am not making this up. Not only is this absolutely f***ing ridiculous enough, but their horse only ended up winning the race.
It's not over the line! It's not totally over the line!
Unsurprisingly, the deal collapsed, and he would once again remain a West Ham player. Now, there was also speculation that due to the club not wanting to sell him, they agreed to giving him a £50,000 bonus for every start he would make, which is great for him. However, Diafra would go on to not start for the club ever again, and his following 10 appearances would come from the bench. In January 2018, Diafra finally got his move, as he signed for Rennes, despite the fact that the day before, David Gold tweeted that he was injured, and, amazingly, the following day, despite attending almost as many horse racing events as football matches in the last 18 months, scored against a star-studded PSG team, in a 3-2 defeat. Now, was all this hassle worth the wait? Well, he made a total of 15 league appearances in 2 seasons at Rennes, scoring 2 goals, before being shipped to the Turkish league, because, you know, of course a washed-up ex-Premier League forward in their 30s ends up in Turkey. It's their prophecy.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
It's fair to say, West Ham didn't have a particularly good start to the 01-02 season, as we found ourselves 15th at Christmas, with some quite bizarre results along the way, drawing 4-4 to Charlton, losing 5-0 at Everton, and losing 7-1 at Blackburn. So, what do you think this group of players did to recapture their best form over the festive period? Well, one man in particular decided to make the headlines. Hayden Foxe. Now, what do you reckon Hayden did during the players' Christmas party that was so bad that made the front pages of the tabloids? Did he get severely hungover? Did he assault Father Christmas? Did he crash his Lamborghini dressed as a snowman? Well, it was none of those things. The former Australia international decided to urinate against a public bar. You know, as you do. Now, what was more bizarre than this was actually his statement afterwards, which reads, "What I did was wrong and it got blown right out of proportion as if it was a huge event, but all the boys were really good to me and stuck by me. The spotlight is on, especially at Christmas time, about what the lads are doing. I regret it and I want to forget it now. Put it behind me, and get on with it. There were no fights or yelling of abuse or anything. You do have a few drinks at your Christmas party and I'm not saying that to promote drinking, but it was a case of the lads enjoying themselves." And, you know, he's absolutely spot on. I mean, who hasn't made the conscious decision to urinate in a public space? Now, obviously I'm not about to endorse this, but maybe there was some methods to Hayden's madness, because this wasn't the only piss-taking that went on, as West Ham went on to win their next match 4-0 against Derby County, and not only that, but their form in the second half of the season picked up greatly, picking up 32 points in the second half of the season, which was enough to finish in 7th place. So, I think we can all agree that Hayden was absolutely justified in his decision-making, and in his methods. Hopefully we'll see Max Kilman do the same this international break, to inspire an upturn in form for Graham Potter's men. It's no secret that West Ham have had their fair share of striker issues over the years. In fact, that's putting it unbelievably lightly.
Who's that too? There's no one fucking standing there.
I'd argue, we probably have the worst record of signing centre forwards of any top-flight team in the history of football. Now, there's so many of these I could talk about, but the one we'll go over today is former Arsenal striker Marouane Chamakh. He was out of favour at Arsenal in the 2013 January window, so of course, he found himself on loan at West Ham. Son of West Ham owner David Sullivan, Jack Sullivan, took to Twitter to let the fans know of his disappointment at the signing, and David Gold, of course, later came out with one of his trademark DG classics. So, as you can imagine, he joined a very long list of forwards who ended their West Ham career with a whopping 0 goals. Now, this sort of situation is pretty standard at West Ham, but it gets worse. How? I hear you ask. Because he signed for Crystal Palace the following season. So, of course, take a wild f***ing guess at who scored the winning goal for them when we visited Selhurst Park.
I've accidentally run to Windsor.
Now, after playing like this fella for most of 2024, Lucas Paquetá finally looks to be returning to some form, under new boss Graham Potter. However, there is actually a universe, where he doesn't end up playing for West Ham at all. In the summer of 2022, West Ham were in the market for a creative midfielder, as Nikola Vlasic failed to live up to expectation, and was loaned out to Torino. One of the names in the mix, was Club Brugge's club captain, Hans Vanaken. Now, I'm no Fabrizio Romano, but I'd say the deal was pretty close at one stage. Why? I hear you ask. Well, he came out in a post-match interview, saying goodbye to the fans and the club that he'd spent 7 years with, saying that he wants to leave to join the Hammers.
Afwachten, ik zeg het nogmaals, vanaf morgen gaan er weer gesprekken zijn tussen clubs, tussen mij en ik zeg het, dan gaan we zien.
In true West Ham fashion, we decided not to pursue the deal from that moment onwards. We pulled the plug and signed Lucas Paquetá instead for a club record fee. And my favorite part of that deal was that we put our brand spanking new £50 million signing on a fucking fragile roof. Anyways, the likelihood was that we never really wanted to sign Hans Vanaken, and the bid was just a smokescreen to speed up the Lucas Paquetá transfer. Unfortunately for Hans, he didn't get his move elsewhere. He had to awkwardly carry on at his club like nothing ever happened. It was one thing having your dream of a big European move collapse after publicly announcing you wanted to go. So, of course West Ham had to rub salt into Hans's wounds and go unbeaten in the Conference League that very season.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
Now, I don't know about you, but I miss European football at West Ham, and not for how unbelievable the overall experience is, especially for a club like ours, but I just miss how unreal we were on the European stage. 3 successive years in Europe, topped the group all 3 times, some incredible and memorable knockout matches, and the small matter of a trophy. When you think about it, we've played 37 European fixtures, and only really had 2 meaningful defeats, one to the eventual winners Eintracht Frankfurt, and another to Bayer Leverkusen, who went unbeaten in Germany that season, which is quite the contrast to West Ham just a couple of years ago, who got knocked out of the Europa League qualifiers 2 years in a row, to the very same Romanian plumbers. Now, what I actually want to talk about is the quite frankly ridiculous unbeaten run we went on in Europe, and the quite frankly ridiculous thing that happened right afterwards. From West Ham's Europa Conference League qualifier against Viborg in 2022, to their 2-1 victory against Freiburg in 2023, West Ham did not lose a single one of their 17 European matches, which was the longest European unbeaten run ever by an English side. Miraculous. Genuinely, miraculous. The record was previously held by Leeds and Tottenham, most recently in 1968. 1968? We broke a record that has been standing for 55 years. Incredible. I look forward to bragging about this for years, and years to come. You have got to be taking the fucking piss. 55-year record we broke, and we only held on to it for 33 days. 33 fucking days. Why can we never just have nice things?
Road work ahead. I sure hope it does.
Thank you for watching this episode of Only at West Ham. This was certainly long overdue, wasn't it? Please remember to check out my website, and also to turn on notifications for my Twitter, as supposedly, Mr. Elon has been playing around with the X algorithm whilst I've been away, and you may miss some of my videos. There's also a playlist on my channel where you can find all previous episodes of this series. Now, as always, I'll leave the outro to my good friend Jesus Christ, and I'd strongly advise you to do exactly as he says. We are fucking massive. Come on, you irons.
Subscribe to the West Ham Clips YouTube channel.
This can now be placed in your bag.
Unexpected item in bagging area. Remove this item before continuing.